Are you fond of creepy stories that are lurking around the internet? Do you love being thrilled by mystery and creepiness? Turn off your lights and hide in your blankets because I'm about to give you 3 creepy stories from Reddit that will surely send shivers down your spine with Storytime! Creepy Reddit stories. Among the 3, which is fake? This video was suggested by our beloved fan under the username Imagine. If you want to be mentioned in our future videos, drop your video suggestions in the comment section below. Share your ideas with us. Hi there! Looking for something fun and exciting? Come and laugh with us. Welcome to Mr. Pink and Mrs. Blue, where laughter is the best medicine. I am Mrs. Blue, your spooky storyteller for the day, here to deliver internet stories that are sketchy but extraordinary. To make our video more interactive, I have gathered 2 real stories and made up one. So at the very end of the video, try to guess which story didn't happen in real life. Pay attention to every detail because all of them are very realistic, so your detective skills need to be on point. Are you ready? Let's get started! Ever since we were kids, my cousin and I enjoyed being in the same room away from our messy sisters. It made us feel at peace and clean because we did not need to tidy up every time they made a mess. Being the only 2 in the room meant having a bigger bed. We both can't fully occupy the bed, and our aunties used to say that the empty space shall be occupied by a different spirit. This freaked us out every night, so we made sure to have our pillow on our side so that there are no spaces left for the spirits to lie onto. One night, while I was asleep, I was hit by a weird feeling. It suddenly struck me, and it caused me to wake up from my sleep in the middle of the night. I felt a very strange and eerie suspicion that someone was looking at me while I slept. The lights were off, but with the help of the light coming from the moon, I still managed to look around our room. Nothing was there. I looked at the window, and there it was. Someone was looking at me. He's standing outside our window, trying to have a peek of the inside. I was so scared, I immediately hid under my blanket, calmed myself, and whispered a prayer. I forced myself to avoid having a second look at the shadow, but the same feeling was there, this time much more intensified. I repeated the prayer until I fell asleep. Later that morning, I felt at ease. I looked at the window and the shadow wasn't there anymore. Honestly, I was quite relieved for a moment, but I know this incident will haunt me for the rest of my life. A few days ago, I accidentally locked myself outside my house after getting some groceries for me and my dogs. I immediately went to Google to look for a local locksmith that can help me with my problem. After browsing for a few minutes, I found a decent-looking one and contacted him as soon as possible. Almost 2 hours have passed and he hadn't arrived yet. I was starting to get pissed because I had my frozen goods still inside a bag and it was starting to melt as I waited for the unprofessional locksmith. Later on, he came with his pickup and I felt a little ease because finally my chance of getting inside my house was here. He offered an apology for arriving late, which I politely accepted, even if he didn't explain the reason behind his lateness. I started to notice that he wasn't wearing a uniform with a badge of the company he was working for, and as well as his pickup. This was becoming so sketchy, but I didn't bother to ask him. All I wanted was to get inside my house and get on with my business. After a few moments, he finally opened the door with the use of his tools and a little bit of fiddling. I thanked him for his service and we started to talk about the payment. He charged me for $200. Are you kidding me? You came late and you unlocked my door for just a few minutes. And yet you're going to charge me with so much money, I thought? But I stayed calm and handed him the money, instead of starting an argument. He left and I entered my house with the groceries and tried to forget about the unprofessional locksmith. After getting finished with my businesses, I browsed once again and compared the service fee that he charged me. I contacted the company he worked for, and they told me that I should be the one to talk to him. With his phone number, which I got earlier, I called and confronted him about the fee. In response, he just said, "Well, we got you in, didn't we?" I told him that I am not afraid to carry the case in the small claims court, and he responded, "You do what you gotta do, and we do what we gotta do," and he hung up. I didn't immediately think of it as a threat until later that evening. It wasn't going to be that hard for him to harm me in my sleep, because he can easily enter my home given that he's a locksmith. So locking my door would be useless. Asking my neighbor to let me stay for the night was my only option. So I went to the old man's house living next to me and asked him. I told him everything and why I was so afraid to stay in my house. Instead of letting me in, he handed me a candle. He said, "The candle will help to keep me and my house secured, but I mustn't inhale it." As I accepted the candle, he soon closed the door at my face and I went back inside my home. I lit up the candle and placed it in my kitchen, and I took every tool I had before heading up the stairs into my room. By morning, the cops came to my place because they received a report from one of my neighbors that she caught a suspicious car lurking in front of my house, kind of like quietly watching. After hours of inspecting whose car it might be, she decided to report it to the cops. As I looked at the car, I immediately confirmed that it's the pickup that the locksmith owns. They took its plate number and tried to contact him, but he didn't answer. They went to his address, but no one was there. I thought of the candle, and I came in my house to look for it, but a very pleasant scent hit me. Its smell was kind of addicting. Maybe it was the candle, I thought. So I headed towards the kitchen, hid the candle from the cops, and told them to leave in a very polite way, of course. Once they were gone, I took the candle and returned it to the old man and asked him what it was. He confirmed that it was indeed like a drug that makes you numb and feel nothing but happiness. He reassured me that I didn't need to worry about anything now because it's all been taken care of. As he was about to close the door, I saw a very familiar man sitting on his couch. The locksmith, smiling. Are you enjoying our story time so far? If so, stay with us until the end of the video, because the next ones are going to be more creepy compared to this one. Join our growing family by clicking on the subscribe button and notification bell to keep you notified whenever we post a new video. My mom asked me to help with the bridal shower of one of our neighbors, Pauline. I was hesitant at first because we were not that close and she's pretty much older than me. We haven't had the proper introduction despite the fact that we live near each other. My mom thought of it as a way for me to get a boyfriend, which is clearly not my priority. As I agreed to help Pauline, I got to know her, and she's very sweet. She loves to tell stories about her soon-to-be husband Aiden all the time. She'd tell us how they love each other so much they made a blood oath. It was pretty sketchy for me, so I needed to ask her what it is. She said it's an oath. If ever one of you dies, the other will be taken by the deceased as soon as they can, so they'll stay together for the rest of their lives. Pauline's very sure about her future with Aiden because according to her, they're soulmates. I didn't bother to question her beliefs. Instead, I just listened. The more I spent time with her, the more I understood where she was coming from, why she's so devoted to Aiden, and why Aiden feels the same way to her. They're indeed a perfect match. 1.5 years after the bridal shower, her wedding day came. They managed to invite people who they value the most. It was not a grand wedding, but it wasn't a small wedding either. Their celebration was simple, but suits the both of them. Pauline, who was wearing a very elegant gown that matched her so well, was late on her wedding day, but luckily her groom wasn't there yet. Hours have passed, yet Aiden hadn't arrived, but Pauline was still smiling. She was so confident that Aiden wouldn't bail on her on their wedding day. But as she looked at Aiden's family, his brother wasn't there too. He was supposed to drive Aiden to the church, but both of them are nowhere to be found. And then the news came. It was so devastating, no one knew the right words to say to Pauline to comfort her. We're all in shock. A sports car hit the vehicle that Aiden was in, and according to the report, the passenger died, while the driver was in critical condition in the hospital. I felt sadness for Pauline and Aiden's family. Yes, his brother survived, but I knew he was going to live a very sad life. He might think he caused his brother's death and wish he should have died, not Aiden. My heart was aching for their loss, and I wanted to comfort them so bad. If only I could say something to ease their grief and pain. After the wedding, Pauline's parents took care of everything. They sold the house where Aiden and Pauline would have lived after they exchanged vows, and they took her in. There were times when her parents were not home, so Pauline's friends and I started to take turns in keeping her company, but most of the time I was the one with her. I tried my best to comfort her with my words and warmth, but those didn't work. She imprisoned herself from her delusion that Aiden will come get her as soon as he wakes up from his sleep, wherever he is with his wings. She refused to take off her gown because she said it was their only connection, and it's only quite fitting given that he was wearing his suit when he died. We respected her choice, and we didn't force her to change her clothes if she didn't want to. It was her way of coping up with the grief, and we respected that. She always talked about Aiden and how she felt that he was coming for her. We listened. One morning, Pauline disappeared for good. The only thing that was left was her gown, with 2 little holes at the back, like it had grown wings. Despite her being gone, everybody was relieved. She was finally at peace. They arranged a beautiful funeral for Pauline to bid their last goodbyes, and all of us moved on with our lives. Her parents started to believe that Aiden truly came back for their daughter to keep their promise, but I didn't. I was the one who watched Pauline most of the time, and it was only natural that I was the one who found her dead in her bathtub. Getting rid of her body, as well as the many traces of her death, was very challenging, but plotting her disappearance and tampering her dress was eerily healing. I know she's thanking me for what I did wherever she is. Besides, a romantic and mystifying death fitted her more than suicide. Have you already guessed which story is fake? Is it story number 1, story number 2, or story number 3? Let us know in the comments below before we give you the answer. Are you done commenting? Okay, be prepared. Drum roll, please. The fake story is story number 1. Did you get the right answer? If so, congratulations. If you did not get the right answer, that's fine. We'll still have content like this in the future, so stay tuned. Do you have other creepy stories to share? Feel free to drop it in the comments below. Who knows, you might get featured on our next story time video. Did you know North Korea is also home to strange things? Check out our video, Strange Things That Only Happen in North Korea. That is it for today. Again, I am Mrs. Blue. Don't forget, laughter is the best medicine. Mr. Pink and Mrs. Blue will see you in the next one. Bye!